guys, and welcome back to the channel. I've just realised that I've actually not filmed an introduction to this video, so I thought I'd just do a quick one now. Basically, what I thought I'd do is my favourite slow cooker recipe meals in just a little video. So I've done 4 of my favourites. They're very different, ones that you can just stick in the slow cooker all day, leave it on. I talk through what I do, show you what ingredients I use, etc. And I'll just go from there really. I hope you enjoy it. I enjoyed making this one. It took me a couple of weeks to do. If you do enjoy it, then please consider giving us a like and subscribing if you haven't already. And if you want to know any more or see any different ones, then please just let me know and I can do another one of another 4 different recipes if you're interested. So the first recipe that I'm going to show you is actually a pulled chicken recipe. It's a barbecue kind of style chicken and it tastes absolutely beautiful. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the slow cooker on, it's on low, and I'm going to put it on for about 10 hours. Mine can go for quite a long time. Some of them don't go as long as this one, or sometimes slow cookers only have a low and a high setting. So if your slow cooker is like that, then just put it on low. So I've got some chicken breasts, just some chicken breast fillets. I got them out of the freezer. That's one in there now. So for me and Stuart, I'm using 3 chicken breasts. Basically, there was loads spare left so that we could have it for lunches the next days. I'm actually putting these in frozen. There's not an issue with that. I never seem to have an issue with putting the chicken in frozen. So the first thing I'm going to put in is a box of passata. This is just Asda's own version. It was just like 40p, something like that. So I'm just going to cut a side off and tip all that in over the chicken. You can get different passatas that have got different herbs and spices in. This is just a really bog standard plain one. You can get it from every supermarket. I know I've said it in the past, but you have to be careful about how much liquid you add to the slow cooker. I have filled up my passata box with water and then tipped that in as well. But in general, slow cookers help release a lot of liquid, so you sometimes don't need as much as what you think. I always tend to put in a little bit less, and because you can always add more later. You've got to remember that the chickens I've put in were frozen, so they're going to release liquid and things like that. That's something you have to bear in mind. What I'm just going to do is just move that around, try and break up the chicken a little bit, cover it in the passata, and then I'm just going to start putting in some of my herbs. So this is an Italian style grinder. I don't know if you can see it very well. I got it from Pound Stretcher and I love it. It's got sun-dried tomatoes in, onions, salt, garlic, things like that. I just put a really decent kind of chunk of that. I think it was like 99p and I absolutely adore it. I'm going to chuck in some garlic granules. I just eyeball it. I know that probably doesn't help, but that's probably a really decent teaspoon worth of garlic. Same again with onion granules. I just eyeball everything into what I like. Needed a bit of a bang. This one has got a little bit tiny dry. Just actually going to get a knife in there just to break it up a tiny bit. So just onion granules, like I said. I'm just going to chuck a load of that in, about a teaspoon. I never seem to measure, so every time it comes out differently. That's sometimes frustrating because sometimes you can have it really nice and some other times not. This is just some mixed herbs. Again, just a light sprinkling, maybe less than a teaspoon, half a teaspoon worth of mixed herbs, and then some paprika. Paprika helps it get that kind of barbecuiness about it. So I'm going to do about a teaspoon of paprika as well. Stuart's not a massive fan of paprika, so I never massively put in loads. However, if you wanted to put in more, then feel free. I'm also going to chuck in some chicken flavouring as well. That's just going to help it get a little bit more flavouring, a little bit more of the barbecuiness. And then I'm just going to give it a really good stir together. The recipe then asks for a whole bottle of barbecue sauce. So I'm using the Bullseye one, the original version. I really like this. Stuart really likes this. And it was on offer actually, so that's the reason why I chose that one. But you can use any barbecue sauce that you want. So you tip a whole bottle in, give it another good stir, and go from there. And then I'm going to pop the lid on and leave it for the amount of time I go to work actually.
So about 8 hours it was in, and then when I come home, I'm going to shred it, and I'll show you what I do next.
So I've just got home from work and the slow cooker smells amazing. So what I've done is I've got some wedges out of the fridge. These are pre-cut, pre-made, pre-seasoned from Morrison's. So I've just put some spray light, fry light thing on them. I'll show you what I used. Just this sunflower oil from Tesco's. I'm going to bang them in the oven. They take about 45 minutes to cook. So in that time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the chicken out of the slow cooker, shred it apart, and then I'm going to put it back in the slow cooker, and then I'll show you a trick into how to help thicken the sauce naturally without putting any kind of flour or any corn flour or anything like that in it. So that's what I'm going to do now. It smells incredible, and this chicken is just cooked through absolutely beautifully. So I'm just going to pop it in this bowl like that, and then hopefully you can still see. I'm just going to get my 2 forks, and then literally I don't even need to pull, I just need to push with the side of my fork. Don't know if you can see that, but literally all I've got to do is push with my fork and it literally comes away. So I'm just going to shred it up. So you can see how far 3 chicken breasts have gone. That is mountains. 3 chicken breasts are just what I pulled out of the freezer yesterday, so that's what I just decided to use. But this will go so far. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this back in the slow cooker in that beautiful thick juices, which I will show you. And then it can just marinate and just sit just while the wedges are cooking. If you can see, this sauce is still a little bit runny. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the chicken around in it, like so. Now I don't know if you can see properly, but on the lid it's all condensation. Now that water goes in the slow cooker as it's cooking. Now that's fine, I don't mind that when I'm at work. So this slow cooker's been on for 9 hours basically while I've been at work today. I don't mind the water going in because it helps it to stop it burning. It helps it to stop it sticking to the sides, it gives it that extra little bit of liquid, but right now I want that sauce to thicken, and this condensation will keep going and is not going to help it thicken. So what a trick I learned is to get a tea towel. You pop your tea towel down, and then you kind of scrunch it up around the lid like that. Then you just literally pop your lid back on. Now, if you can see me, what will happen with that is that the lid, then the tea towel is going to collect all that water and it won't then go into the sauce. So it's going to help it thicken. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to leave that. I might stir it again in half an hour or so, but I'm just going to leave that to do its thing while the wedges are cooking. We might have some little part bait we get, so I'll show you what I'm going to do and we'll come back and see it in a minute. So from Tesco's the other week I got some of these, there's 6 in this pack, so I'm going to cook all them off as well, and then we're probably going to have these loaded with the barbecue pulled chicken, and that's what we're going to have with our wedges and some salad. And this is what we've got tonight then, guys. Wedges and barbecue chicken in the little buns. They look absolutely lush. And there's still plenty left. Right, so I'm going to do basically it's a chicken, bacon and potato stew. So I'm just going to show you what I put in. I put them slow cook on low, and it'll go for the whole time I'm at work. So I'm at work 9 till 6. So I'm going to pop it on now. So the first thing it asked for was about 150ml of white wine. So that's the first thing I'm going to pop in. The next thing it asked for was some chicken stock. I'd never seen this before. Stuart picked it up from work and said it looked cool. So I thought, hey, let's give it a go today. So you need 500ml of chicken stock. I'm then also going to put in 2 of these little, basically they're a version of Knorr. These are ones from Aldi, chicken ones. This is just going to help it give it loads of flavour and help because, oops, there's a lot of liquid in there. So that's going to help with that. At the end, we will be able to add in a tiny bit of gravy. And again, that'll help thicken it and give it flavour. So that's that. I'm going to give it a stir. I'm going to give it a stir. Mix all the wine in with those chicken pots. Now the recipe actually asks for chicken thighs, but we're not a massive fan of chicken thighs in this house. So I've got some huge chicken breasts to go in. There's quite a few, 3. So next it wants bacon. Now I'm not going to lie, it wanted 16 rashers of bacon to be chopped up in there. I'm not going to put that many in. This is 4 and this is 3 and we'll see how we go. I'm going to cut it relatively big as well. So I'm just going to plonk them in as well. The next thing I'm going to put in is some onions. I use frozen onions all the time, so that's what I'm using. Right, I'm also going to put in some garlic. And I think it asks for tarragon, but Stuart's not a massive fan, so I'm going to put in a tiny little bit of rosemary instead, because obviously rosemary and chicken and wine go together well, so I want to pop that in instead. So then I've got the little new potatoes that it's asked me for. Some of them are quite small, so I'm going to pop them in whole, but then some of the bigger ones I'm going to chop up, and they don't need much. They're just going to need cutting in half. I did try and buy the smallest ones I could find in the shop, so. And basically that's it, that's your stew. So I'm just going to give it a good stir around so all the potatoes are covered in the liquid and just leave it to do its thing. It smells at the moment a little bit winey, so I'm hoping that it's going to, fingers crossed, cook down a lot. So I'm just going to bang the lid on and leave it do its thing. Right guys, so I'm home from work and this is the tip I'm talking about. It's if you wrap the lid in a tea towel, then on here it soaks up all the water and that helps it get really nice and thick. As you can see, it's gotten really nice and thick, but I have helped it along a little bit. So what I've done is, I'm just going to pop the lid back on because we're not ready yet. What I've done is actually used some onion gravy granules. I would actually put some chicken in, but we don't have any chicken granules at the minute. So just chuck some onion in, not much, a couple of teaspoons, and then 1 chicken stock cube as well, just to help thicken it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to serve it with some peas and carrots. So guys, this is the chicken dished up. I've just done some potato croquettes with it and then some peas and carrots. That one's Stuart. And it looks really good and smells delicious.
So I'm just about to start making a beef stew. So the first thing I do is get some onions and put them straight in a little frying pan. I think frying your onions first. You can chuck them in as you've seen me do without frying them, but sometimes I just like that fried onion taste, so I do fry them first. So I'm just putting some in a little frying pan. I always use frozen onions. I never have any issues with them. So I'm just going to fry them in, get a tiny bit of colour on them, and then add them to the slow cooker.
To the slow cooker, I'm adding some frozen peas. So I've got a quarter of a bag left there, and then just some more there. I'm going to add 2 carrots.
I like adding some mushrooms as well to my stews. Not everyone does this, but I just think it helps get that a bit extra veg and stuff in it. You know, the mushrooms really cook down. You can't really tell they're in there, so I always end up adding a handful of mushrooms in as well. When I make a beef stew, I always fry my beef chunks off first. It never, ever, ever, ever works for me. Sorry about the odd camera angle there, but it never works for me if I don't fry them off first. I know loads of people that don't have to fry their beef off first, but I always have to. And then I just know it works perfectly for me. I'm going to use a beef casserole packet mix. I use all different brands. In fact, one of my favourites is actually the Aldi own version. They're about 22p a packet. I just think this gives it loads of flavour. So I'm just going to mix it up how the packet instructions say. So I'm just going to mix it with some water, stir it all together, stir all the powder in, and then pour it into the slow cooker. So what I'm adding in now is Aldi's version of the Knorr stock pot cubes. I'm also adding in some beef stock cubes even. So I'm just going to crumble that up a little bit in the packet and then tip it in. It doesn't work as well as an OXO cube, you know, that you actually get like crumbliness. But it does just help to kind of make it a little bit more pliable. So I'm just going to add in one stock cube and then one of these Knorr kind of stock pot things as well. These just help give it so much more flavour, so much more richness, and I always just use them just to help get my dishes, you know, up to a really good quality and standard, I think. I'm then just going to tip my partly cooked beef in and just give it a really good stir. I never cook the beef all the way through, but just brown it on some sides, and then it just helps me do the cooking process in the slow cooker. And then I'm going to put the slow cooker on low for a varied amount of time. So I think this one was on for about 8 hours on low.
So excuse the steam, guys, but this is what the stew looks like. It's gone really thick and lush. I hope you can see it okay. And now that has cooked. Oops. Oh no, you're gone. And that has cooked through in about 5 hours, which is really impressive. So I'm just going to dish it up. So this is what it looks like all dished up. I've done some skin on mashed potato. Now, who has actual time to peel potatoes for mash? Because I don't. So I just leave my skin on. That's the stew, and then sometimes we have Yorkshire puddings with it, sometimes we have dumplings, but today I just fancied a little strip of pastry, so that's what I've done with it today, and it looks absolutely delicious to me.
Right, so for the final thing I'm making in the slow cooker to show you this time is a cottage pie. I know it says shepherd's pie there on the bottom. I've got a shepherd pie mix, but I am making this with beef mince. So I've just got some 5% beef mince that I'm going to put straight into the slow cooker. No cooking it first. Next, I'm going to add in one chopped carrot. I've chopped it up quite finely. That will again break down. You can add in more than that if you want to. I'm also going to add in a cottage pie or a shepherd's pie, whatever you're feeling, kind of mix it with the water and then put it straight into the slow cooker. I'm breaking the mince up a little bit with the back of a fork. This just helps it stop from getting really long strands in the slow cooker. And then I'm going to chuck in a Knorr stock pot of beef cube and give that a really good then mix. I'm also putting in some frozen peas and some frozen onions. I'll just give it a mix after every time. I always use frozen onions, like I've said before. I just don't see the point in using fresh ones. I know I do use fresh ones. That's a lie. I do use them, but I just like frozen. I like the ease of having frozen onions. Then I'm just going to give it a really, really, really good mix together.
So I just thought I'd show you what it looks like now. It's been on for a good 5 or 6 hours. So like I said, it's been on for a good 5 or 6 hours. Everything's cooked down beautifully. As you can see, the mince really didn't need cooking before I put it in, so it's absolutely fine. Now, when I first opened it, it was a little bit runny. So all I've done is put in a heaped tablespoon of Bisto powder. And that's all I've done, and that's just helped thicken it. So what I'm going to do is I've got these individual little dishes that I'm going to pour them out into, because I like having a bit of cheese on my mash. Stuart doesn't. So we're just going to pour them into that. Then when the mash is done, I'll top them that and then put them in the oven. And then I can show you afterwards. So I've got my little tubs. What I'm going to do now is just going to half fill them with the mixture. Obviously you want them relatively thick, relatively full of mince. But I've made loads here, enough probably to go in the freezer for another time. As you can see, if I can show you properly, there's still absolutely tons left. So what I'll probably do is put that in a pot and put that in the freezer when it's cold. So I just thought I'd show you them before they go in the oven. That one's mine, that one's Stuart's. I've actually been able to get a third one out of it with all the mince and the mashed potato as well, so that I can have that for tomorrow for dinner maybe. And who has time to actually peel potatoes, so I always leave the skin on my potatoes, but once it's cooked you can't actually taste it. So, and all the nutrients and good stuff are in the skin, so I always leave it on. And for my roasties, unless I've really can be bothered, I tend to leave the skin on everything. So that's what they look like before they go in the oven. So this is what they look like now they've come out the oven. The cheese is all melty on mine. Stuart's is nice and crisp.
So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this recipe meal video today. If you want to see more like this, then please let me know down in the comments. If there's anything in particular that you want to see or want to know more about, then again, just write a comment and let me know. I've really enjoyed making this one, guys. I hope you've enjoyed what we've kind of produced, what I've kind of made. And I hope everyone's okay. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already and supporting the channel. Please give us a like as well if you've enjoyed the video. But for now, bye guys.